Hello and 07 to all of you, and welcome to this next video in our drag and drop series. You can find the previous videos in the series in the description. I'm SwapUp Gaming, and this will be our second video for the multiple item drag and drop. Today we'll be looking at selecting and deselecting the widgets we want to drag. Before we start, please take a second to like and subscribe. Okay, we got quite a lot to go through today, so let's get to it. So first of all, we are going to get our selection working before we can start dragging items back and forth. So if we look at our finished product, we can see what we want to do with our selection here. First of all, if we're not pressing the control key, we want our clicks to select the item, and if it is selected, we want it to deselect the item. And if we have another widget selected, we want our click to select the new widget and deselect anything else that's already selected, no matter what side the selected item is. So to demonstrate that, we can drag over a widget and select that, and then we can select another widget on the opposite side and we'll automatically deselect all other widgets. That's the first thing. Then if we press Control key and select, we can now select multiple widgets. But if we try to select a widget on the opposite side, even if we have our Control key pressed, it will deselect all other selected widgets. Lastly, if we click on a widget that are already selected while we're pressing Control key, it will deselect that widget while keeping all other widgets selected. However, if we take a little closer look at this, it will not deselect the widget until we release the mouse button. And the reason for this is that when you're selecting multiple items, you might release the button and then you want to start to drag. And if we had the deselection on the mouse pressed, it would deselect the widget again before you start dragging it, and therefore the widget would not follow along. Alright, now we know what we want to do. So let's get into the actual code and get it done. So when we're selecting an item, we are going to put this into an array at the same time. So we can pass this array of information between the two different drop zones. And because we want to pass both the item name and the item amount, we can create a struct that will contain that information for us, and then we just do an array of those structs. So let's start by creating that struct. So we're going to go into Content Browser here, and we're going to go and right click and go Blueprints, and then go down to Structure. I'm going to call this Multiple Item Struct. Can double click on this and get it up. This struct will have two variables. The first one will be of a type text, and let's call this item name. And I'm going to add a variable here, and it will also be of type text, and we're going to call this item amount. Save that, and now we can close this up. So that is our structure. Now let's open both our left Dropbox and our right Dropbox. So here they are, left and the right Dropbox. We're going to go into our graphs. And it's within this left and right Dropbox that we want to store our array that we are dragging back and forth. Because remember, the dragged item is just one widget. And we want to store an array of widgets, and that array is going to be stored in the left Dropbox or in the right Dropbox. So we can add a variable here, and we can change the item time to be an multiple item struct. And we can name this to multiple item array. Right, and we're going to change the type here to an array. Cool. Compile and save. Let's go to the right Dropbox here as well. I'm going to go into the graph, and we're going to add the same variable here. So it's a multiple item array, and we're going to set the type to multiple item struct here, and we are making this into an array. Save and compile. So these arrays are going to be located in widgets. Each widget will have its own array that we can access. And now we can add or remove and clear these arrays individually. So now we can close both the left and the right Dropbox here. And we're going to go into our dragged item now. So we're going to stay here a little bit in our designer tab here. And what we're going to do is we want to make sure that the item here, the image, the background image, changes color depending on if we have selected the item or if deselected the item. So to do that, we can go into our image and we're going to go and bind our brush. And we're going to create a binding. So let's name this background color. So to ensure that the item is selected or deselected, we're going to create a variable here. I'm going to call it it's selected. And it will be of type bool. Let's drag out a copy of that and get the is selected. We're going to get some room here. We're going to create a branch. We're also going to make the return value a local variable. And we are going to name it return color. And we're going to drag out setters for this return color, one for true and one for false. And we're going to create two local variables for true and false. So the first one, the slate brush, is a true. And the second one here, we're also promoting to local variable. And we will call this false. And what we can do now is we can set different tints for if it's true or if it's false. And for the true version here, we're going to set this to a yellow color. Okay. And the false one, we're going to set it to a blue color. See if we find a good blue color. Okay. And then we're going to hook this up. And we are going to comment this with selecting background color. I'm going to hook these guys up as well. Compile and save. So what this will do is whenever the item is selected, it will turn yellow. And whenever it's deselected, it will turn blue. And to prove this, of course, we can just press the play button, and this is now the new blue color that we selected here in the false. Let's go into our on mouse button down function here. I'm gonna drag these guys over because we need a lot of room here. So here is where we're gonna do all the selections. Whenever we press a mouse button down, it will check if we are hovering over our widget, and it will do whatever we need it to do at this point. So the first thing we want to do, we want to find out if the control button is pushed. We're going to get the player controller. Get player controller. Now we're going to get is input key down. And the key we want to find is the control button, left control there. And I'm going to take a branch. And we're going to get the return value. All right, we are going to comment this with, are we pressing the control key? So now we want to add this to our new array. So we need to find out if we're dragging from our left or our right Dropbox. And to do that, we drag in as left Dropbox that we created in the last video. And we're going to check if this is valid. And we're going to use the one with the question mark here. And let's comment this right away with, are we left Dropbox? And if this is invalid, that means we are dragging from the right Dropbox. So we're going to drag in get as right Dropbox. And we're going to do a is valid again. And this is going to be connected from is not valid. And we're going to comment this with, are we dragging from the right Dropbox? So we can copy this And paste it in and just change this to right. So we're going to connect the true button here. So we are pressing the control key. Are we now checking? And now we're checking, are we dragging from the left Dropbox? All right. Now we want to find out if our Dropbox array already contains our current item before we add it to the array, okay? So we want to add the item to the array, but first of all, let's check if it's already there. So we're going to drag out a as left Dropbox here, and we're going to get the array. So this is the array from that we have on the left Dropbox. And of this, we're going to drag off and we're going to do a contain items. All right. So this will check if our multiple item array has something inside it that we can plug into this button here. We need to create something that we can actually compare it to the items inside the array. So we're going to create a new variable. This will be of type multiple item struct. We're going to call it current item. Now we need to set it. We're going to set it, this first thing we do here. We're going to drag one out here. We're going to use the Alt key to create a setter. And we're going to connect that up to the branch. And here we're going to drag off from current item. And we're going to say make multiple item struct. We're going to create an item struct. And what are we going to plug in here? Well, we have the item name, and we already have that over here when we created the widget. And then we have the item amount. We're going to plug that in there as well. We got those when we created the widget in the start. So now we have an item we can compare to. So is this current item, if that is already inside the array, so I'm going to do a branch here. I'm going to connect these guys up. We want to see, does our multiple item array in the left Dropbox already contain the item? If it does, we don't want to add it, but if it doesn't, we want to add it, right? So if it's false, we want to add. So we're going to take from this multiple item, and we're going to do an add. And we are going to add current item to the array. So let's get some comments here. I'm going to comment this one with does the left Dropbox array contain this item? Give it a little question mark. And then we're going to add current item to left Dropbox array. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing for the right Dropbox. So we can copy these to make everything easy. There we go. And we are going to connect is valid up to the branch. And we're going to change these guys here. As left Dropbox, we're going to remove that, and multiple item array, we're going to move that as right Dropbox, and then we're going to get the array. There we go, and this is the one we're going to connect to this one, and also we're going to connect it to this one up here. And we're going to change the comment to right, and let's see, here we go, right. Perfect. And to make it even more easy to understand, what we're going to do is we're going to copy these two. Boom. I'm going to paste them in here. And connect this guy here so we don't have a lot of lines going back and forth. Everything is easy to read. And there we go. And just for clarity, we can move this in here. We're going to move this up here. Next, we're going to make sure that our is selected is selected. So first of all, we're going to drag it out here and do a branch. We could have done a flip-flop system here, but if it's selected, it will be deselected or vice versa. However, further down the line, we need this to be a branch at this point. So this is the best thing to do right now. So we're going to drag out two setters. If it is selected already, we want to deselect it, and we're going to copy this. And if it is not selected, then we want it to be selected. And we're going to add a comment to this, and we're going to call this, are we selecting an item now, or was it selected previously? So this comment will make a little bit better sense once we complete the function, but it works out well now as well. Okay, we're going to connect both the add function here and the true here. I'm also going to get it from this one here. And the true here. I'm going to do a node. And let's connect these guys up. And of course, we are passing the true statements straight into our selection here because it doesn't need to be added to the arrays. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get these guys here. I'm going to connect these guys down to the detect drag if pressed here. And we're going to compile, we're going to save it, and we are going to test it out here and see if we can select something. Look at that. We can select all items, and we can deselect them as well. Awesome. Now we're going to move down to the false statement here if we're not pressing the control key. And what we're going to do the same thing as we do here. We can copy and paste these guys, making sure that where our drag is coming from. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the array here. As we are not clicking with the control key, and therefore we're going to deselect all items. So we are getting the array. And we are going to use the clear function on these. And of course, the clear function is just clearing out everything that's in the array. And as we can now push items both to the left side and the right side, we want to clear both arrays. So we need to be able to access both of them right here. So in order to do that, we need to add a variable in both the right and left drop boxes that gives us access to the variables on the opposite drop box. So let's open up our left drop box. I'm going to add a new variable here. And we'll call it right Dropbox, and the type here is going to be right Dropbox, and we're going to do an object reference. So let's make this instance editable and compile and save. We're going to do the same thing with our right Dropbox, but we're going to go into the graph here, and we're going to add a left Dropbox. And go in and make that a left Dropbox type, object reference, instance editable, compile and save. And now we're going to open our test widget here, which is our overhead widget for everything. In here, we can actually go into our left Dropbox on the construct, event construct. We're going to get our left Dropbox, and we're going to set our right Dropbox. So this is the variable inside the left Dropbox called right Dropbox. And we're going to drag out a copy of the right Dropbox. And we're going to do the same thing, but vice versa. So we're going to get the right Dropbox. We're going to set the left Dropbox right there. And we're going to drag a copy of the left Dropbox right here. And hook that up. Drag that out. And we're going to do a little comment on this. Setting opposite Dropbox variable. All right, compile and save. So now we can access the opposite Dropbox. So we go into our dragged item again here, and we are getting our left Dropbox once again. And now we're getting the right Dropbox. And from this, we're getting the array. And we're going to call a clear on that array. And connecting the clear with the clear, we can comment all of this. And we're going to call it clear both arrays. So let's do this for the same for the right Dropbox. We're going to copy this, paste it in here. But now, of course, we are working from the right Dropbox instead. So this is going to be as right Dropbox and get array. And this is the array we're going to plug into the first one. And then we're going to get the right Dropbox again. I'm going to remove all these three. There we go. And now we're going to get the left Dropbox. And we're going to get its array. There we go. And of course, what we can do now is we can mark all this, and then we do Shift A, and then we move it a little bit in the center. And same thing with these. Shift A was actually pretty good already. Cool. All right, now we want to deselect all items, all the children inside the scroll box, except for this child that we're actually clicking on. So we're going to make that into a function. So let's create that. So we click on the functions, and we're going to call this deselect children. So what we want to do here is we want to get all the children of a scroll box. Remember, we're putting all our widgets into a scroll box, and now we want to get all the children in that scroll box. So what we're going to do here is we're going to right click. We're going to remove the context sensitivity for now. And we're going to do get all children. There we go. This is creating an array as a return value. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to take the target here. We're going to hover over our deselect input node, and that will give us a input. And if we click on this one, we see that this is a panel widget, and we're going to call this scroll box. So this will be an input into the function. And this array that we get as a return value, we want to loop through it. So we're going to do a for each loop. Connect that up. We're going to comment this with get all children and loop through them. Now we get all the children within the scroll box. So what do we want to do? So we want to go through them and deselect every item except the current item. All right. So how do we do that? If we drag off the array element here, and then we do a not equal, and we're going to do a reference to self. I'm going to plug that into this. So if the array element is not equal, I'm going to do a branch here. And loop body, we need to hook that up. Now, if it's not equal, we want to do something. And we're going to do is we're going to cast this to a dragged item, right? Into the true. And what we want to do here is as dragged item, we want to get the selected. So set is selected. We want to set that to false. So let's see here. We can comment this with is the array element cast to drag item and set the item selection to false. Right, so that is that. So let's get these a little bit prettier. We can save, compile, and we can save this. So now in our on mouse button down, we can drag in as left Dropbox, and we'll get the scroll box. And we can drag in our deselect children. We're going to connect our scroll box to our scroll box input. I'm going to connect the clear to the deselect children. I'm going to line these up, and we're going to comment this to deselect all children except self. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side here. Get scroll box. There we go. And we're going to get our deselect children. Gonna hook that up, and we are what we can do is we can copy this and we can paste that in. Now we want to see if the selected item was selected before we clicked on it, or if it was deselected when we clicked on it. So we're going to get a it's selected here, and we're going to do a branch, and we're going to take a couple of setters for is selected here. We're going to copy that and do that. So if it was selected, we want to deselect it, and if it was deselected, we want to select it. And what we can do is we can hook up both these guys into the same. I'm going to do a read route node here. I'm going to get this one into the read route. So false becomes true and true becomes false. So what we're going to do here is we're going to comment this with are we selecting the item now, or was it selected previously? Just as we commented up there. All right, what we can do now is we can hook these up, and we're going to give this a reroute node, and we're going to place that in there. Drag this over a little bit. Now, the next thing we want to look at as well before we test it out, we're deselecting all children in its own scroll box, but if we want to deselect them in the other scroll box as well. So we're going to do that here now. So we're going to get as left Dropbox, and here we're going to get the opposite Dropbox, so get right Dropbox. And now we're going to get its scroll box. Right? And we're going to deselect all the children in there as well. We're going to do that here. There we go. And what we can do here is we can do the same thing here. But of course, with the right Dropbox, we want to get the scroll box in the left. So get left Dropbox and get scroll box. There we go. Cut that up. We're hooking this up, and we are going to get that one into the reroute node, getting everything lined up. And we can actually drag this out and cover both eventualities here. Let's see. Boom. And getting that into this one. Perfect. So what we can do, just to do a quick test, is we can click on play and we can select, we can deselect. We're not pressing any control keys. And whenever I move back and forth, I am selecting and deselecting. And if we drag an item over here on the other side, we can select this. And if we click on this side now, it will automatically deselect that as well. So this is perfect, right? What the next step we want to do is whenever we are clicking on multiple items, so if I pass over 2 here now, and I mark this one, if I control click on this side, I want this one to be deselected, but it's not, right? And why is that? Well, we're not going through this when we're clicking the control button. So we need to go up on top here and make sure that that happens up here as well. So if we take all these and we move it out a little bit, there we go. We want to do that right here. So we're going to drag in deselect children function. And we're going to get as left Dropbox. And we're going to get the right Dropbox. And we're going to get the scroll box here. Cool. Connecting that, we are lining that up. And we don't want to do it for this, the left Dropbox scroll box, because we are multi-selecting. So of course you want to keep them. We want them right where they are. So we're going to comment this with deselecting all children of opposite scroll box. Right? So what we're going to do here now is we're going to move this up, and this one is going into the deselect children. There. And this one is the one that goes into this one here. So everything is connecting up to the single point that goes into the branch, and this is selected branch. So what we want to do here is we want to do the same thing here, but on the right side. So we're going to copy that and place it over here. Take this and move it over here. And I'm going to plug this in here. Let's see if we can get it to be a little bit more in structure. I'm gonna double click on that one. We're gonna get the true in there. We're gonna move this down like that, something. I'm gonna move this over. I'm gonna move this over a little bit, and we're gonna get this one into that connection. Do here as well is of course make this to the right scroll box. So we're gonna get the right Dropbox. We're gonna get the left Dropbox. And we're gonna take this and get scroll box. There we go. And we're going to hook that up. Make sure that that is aligned. And we're gonna double click on that, get that redirected so it looks a little bit better. All right. Now what we can do here is we can do a node on that one, connect these two up so everything is connected and looks okay now. Okay. Compile and save that. Test this out. Right, so if we drag over to here, we can take the control click on the Bravo here. If we control click on the Caesar, it will automatically deselect that. And so now we can have multiple selected, but as soon as we click on the other side, it will deselect one. All right, cool. So that is perfect. So the next thing we want to look at is on this side. So we are going to move this over a little bit. if this item are selected, was deselected and is now selected, we want to add it to the array, right? Because we want to be able to, if I click on press here, we want to be able to say that I have one clicked, I haven't control clicked, so it has not been added to the array yet. But if I control click on the next one, now the only one that's actually is in the array is the Caesar. The Bravo is not there, so we need to make sure that it's in the array, right? And to do that, we want to add another version of this. So we're going to copy this whole thing here and place it straight down here, because we want to do this selection on the left or on the right side, because right now we're doing it all on the both sides at once, and we don't want that. So we're gonna remove this one and we're going to connect that one up there, right? So if we are selecting on the right side, now we want to add this to our array. So we're going to copy this guy up here and paste that down here. And so if we are not selected, now we are selected, so we want to add it to the array, because if you think about it, we are actually clearing both arrays here, so there's nothing in there. So now we need to add that to that array. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side. We want to add this to the array. And we're going to do that here. Boom. So what we can do here is we can actually flip-flop these just to make it easier. I'm going to flip-flop these, that one up there, one. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. And we're going to connect that into this, like so. And we're going to move these down a little bit. And what I can do now is I can connect this guy to this one. All right, just get them lined up so it looks pleasing to the eye, but it's also much easier to work when you do that. Because you see everything, what it's actually doing. You don't have to concentrate everything into a small area, because we have a lot of real estate to work with. So yeah, cool. What's the next thing we're gonna do? All right, so we have another thing I need to address, or we need to address here, and that is, if I move this over here a little bit, we are deselecting all children of opposite scroll box, right? But we keep the array as is. So whenever we select things in the left one, if there are anything in the array on the right side, we actually keep them in that array, and we want to remove that. So going to, this drive me crazy. Okay, so at the left Dropbox, we're gonna get the right Dropbox, and we are gonna get the array, and we want to clear that. Connect that up here. We're going to get all these aligned. I'm gonna drag them into our little folder. There we go. Cool. And of course, we're gonna do the same thing on the right side here. Got some room here. I'm gonna copy these two, get those, and we're gonna get the array. And we're going to clear this as well. All right, we are now ready to move on. I'm going to show you something here. If we are pressing the play button and we are selecting multiple items here, I stop pressing the button and we want to drag all these 3 items over. It's not going to work, the actual drag, but you will see what I'm talking about. If I press now and start dragging, what will happen is that the Bravo, I'm holding down the button, the Bravo is actually deselected, and therefore that's the only one we're dragging now, because the drag and drop functionality doesn't work. But you see that problem is that if I click on it, it will deselect, and I don't want that. I don't want it to be deselected until I'm actually lifting my finger from the mouse button. All right, so we're going to deal with that now. And how do we do that? Well, we do it in a function called onMouseUp. In the function here, I'm going to override onMouseUp. OnMouse button up. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to drag out a little space here. And if we are just compiling and saving here, we see that we actually get a warning that it actually wants us to handle or unhandle it. So we're going to drag off here and just get a handled as a return node and compile and save, and that warning disappears. All right. Cool. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure, did we actually select it now previously? Because remember, when we're clicking off this, we can actually start here. If I click on this, it will automatically select it, right? Let's say I now lift my finger. If I try to deselect it every time I lift the mouse button, it will deselect it, so it will blink back and forth, so, you know? So I need to know, did I select it now or was it selected before? And we can do that with a Boolean, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my on-mouse button down here. Go into, are we selecting this item now or was it selected previously? It makes better sense now we're talking about this, right? So I'm going to get a variable here and we're going to call it selected now. And this is going to be of type Boolean, right? And what we can do here is that we can say that it was not selected, so now it's selected. And therefore, we also want to add that it's selected now, right? I'm going to connect that over here. And what we can do is we can remove this is selected false, and we're going to add that inside the mouse up button, right? So we're going to connect the true to this little thing here, and we're going to do some reroutes like that. So if it's true, it just passes through and goes straight out. So it doesn't deselect it. It just goes pass out and out, right? So we are also going to add the same functionality down here. So we're going to do it on both sides. So it was selected. No, but it's now selected. So we're going to select now. We're going to set that. And we're going to connect that up here. And we're going to set that to true. Fix this a little bit here. And the same thing over here. So we're going to drag in, select it now, set it, hook that up. They're going to be set to true. All right. So now we are saying that, yes, we are selected and we selected it now. It wasn't previously selected. Okay. So what do we do with this information? Well, if we go into on mouse button up here, we can drag in a selected now boolean, and we're going to do a branch. And we're going to hook that up here. Okay. So now we know that if we are selected now, that means that we're going to be continue to be selected now, right? If we're not selected now, that means that we would have to set our selection to false. So we're gonna drag out a setter for is selected and plug it to the false button here. And we want to do is also change the selected now to false. And we're gonna connect that to true. So why do we do this? Well, we want to know if we just press the selected button, we don't want it to be deselected. We want it to be keep on being selected. So what we can do now is we can drag out a is selected node here. I'm going to do another branch. I'm going to hook these guys up here. All right, so first of all, we're going to comment this with did we just select it or was it already selected? All right. So if we still are selected, we just want to get this and go to return node because we don't really need to do anything. However, if it's no longer selected, we want to remove it from our array. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get the left drop box and we're going to check if this is valid. Just like before. And we're going to do the same thing with the right drop box. And is valid. Right? And we're going to connect it's not valid here to this executive. And we're going to go from the false up here. Now we're going to get the, you can drag this up guy up here. We want to get the array. The same thing here. We want to get this array. And we want to remove something from this. Remove item. There we go. Move this out a little bit. Copy that and we can place that here. And it's valid. It's valid here. And which one do we want to remove? Well, we want to remove this item, the current item. And the same thing we want to do over here, current item. Take these, we're going to move them down there. So that's what we want to do. So we're going to connect these guys up. This guy, let's see, we'll do it this way. I'm going to get a reroute node. And we're going to connect this guy, the true case, into this reroute. Like that. And we're going to get another one here that we can connect this guy up. All right. So what will happen now is that it will deselect the item when we're lifting the mouse and not when we're clicking it. So let's test this out. I'm going to press play here. So if I hold down my control key and we're selecting couple, now I'm going to click and hold it. And it doesn't deselect, but when I release it, it deselects it. Okay? And it does that. So if, let's say I click on this now, it selects it straight away, and then I release it, it doesn't deselect it. But if I click on it now and hold it down, it doesn't deselect until I release it. All right, perfect, exactly what we wanted. And let's see to everything works the same on the other side. Yes. So that is perfect. All right. All right. Let's end this with commenting these guys here. I'm gonna do a comment on this whole section and going, if we are no longer selected, remove the item from the corresponding array. All right. So that's what we need to do for the selection. We can now select, we can deselect, and we can select multiple, and we can drag over a couple here, and we can do the same thing on this side, and it deselects everything just like we wanted. In the next video, we are going to start handling for multi-items drags. So until then, I'm Swapop Gaming. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.